Hello, everyone.
Hello, hello.
Hey, hello, good morning.
Hello.
Good morning.
Is anyone familiar with a grain.com call recorder?
What?
Oh, that's probably me. Sorry, let me kick it. Or you can kick it, actually.
Let me see. Thank you.
There we go. I think I kicked it. There we go. It's the same as Gong or one of those. It follows me around for sales calls. So anybody that's not on my domain, it tries to follow.
Thanks. Okay, so Tracy and Steve have a conflict today, and Fatih just wrote me that it might be a bit late. So let me start sharing. The agenda in the meantime. Okay, so let's get started until Fatih is able to join us. All right. Welcome everyone to the CDF TOC meeting. My name is Andrea Frichtel. I work for IBM. I'm in UTC. And yeah, feel free, please, to sign yourself into the attendees list. And yeah, so the meeting is recorded. And yeah, sorry, I'm just saying. Fatih is not joining yet. Okay. Well, we have a few items on the agenda for today. The first item is TOC chair election. I don't know if Fatih wanted to introduce this, but yeah, I'll just say a couple of words. And as you may have seen, the result of the TOC chair election are out and have been elected. That's why I'm chairing the meeting today. And yeah, just wanted to say thanks a lot for the great work that you've done, Oleg, as chair of this team, for bringing this forward, the team until now. And yeah, thanks also Melissa for putting your name out as well as a candidate for this. So and thanks everyone for the trust and electing me on this position.
All the best in your role.
Yes, congratulations and full confidence you'll make an amazing chair. It'll be great.
Congratulations.
Great. Thanks everyone. And yeah, we have a great team. So I trust we can do great together. All right, on to the next item. We have quite a few things on the agenda. CDCon GitOps Con 2023, Vancouver, Canada. I don't know who added this to the agenda, but the CFP is open. There is an early bird that is actually until today, and then the CFP will be open until February 10th. I don't know if anyone wanted to add anything else about this. Okay, so please submit your talks, and thanks everyone who joined also the committee for that. All right, I added a few proposals that I wanted to introduce today for the TOC. The first one about OKR, we know Fatih was keen on discussing this, so I'll just postpone it. Oh yeah, and share it in your channels. Thanks. I'll just leave it for later. We had a couple of meetings in the governing board. We created a governing board strategy subcommittee, and we had a couple of meetings, and we discussed a few things there, and a couple of them at least are relevant to the TOC, I think. So I wanted to bring them here to this meeting. And the first is about the project benefits document. So we have today a member benefits document, which is this PDF you may have seen, where we highlight the benefits of becoming a City Foundation member. And the idea is that, it could be useful to have something similar, but for project, so project benefits document. And that could be useful to share with prospective projects, so to help us build a project pipeline for projects we want to attract to the CDF, as well as for existing projects to help getting them more engaged with the TOC and collaborating together. And the project benefit draft could include benefit that exists today, of course. And as we write such a document, I think us as a TOC, we could also propose additional benefits that we think might be relevant. And because as part of the TOC roles, I linked here as to make recommendation to the budget committee in terms of resource priorities for technical projects. So if we think that there are certain resources of the CDF that should be allocated to services to the project, we can make such recommendation, I believe. And yeah, so I wanted to ask what people think about this proposal, and if we think that's something we want to do, maybe the proposal, the way I would propose is to get maybe 1 or 2 volunteers to start the draft that we could then present to the rest of the TOC, get additional contributions, ideas, and then present it to the GB for approval. Any comment from anyone? Does this sound like a good idea or something like anyone would like to get involved with?
Yeah, this is a great idea. I have some projects I'm pursuing to try to get involved, so it'd be nice to get started on a document like this to convince more to come on board. And with a
Great,
partner,
thanks,
I'd
Melissa.
love to volunteer.
Okay, well, I'd be happy to work on this as well. We can ask Tracy and Steve, who are not here today, and Hattie, if they also be interested. Okay. All right. Well, thanks, Melissa, for volunteering. Maybe I can reach out offline and we can discuss a way forward for this then.
Perfect.
All right, the next idea I had on my mind, and that we were discussing about also in the GB strategy meeting, is that it would be good, similar to what Laurie has done on the outreach committee, to have project representative joining this meeting. So we have some representative in the TOC, of course, because we have members from project that are part of the TOC for Tecton, Screwdriver, Jenkins, and Ortelius. But I think it would be good to have at least one name for every project. I don't know if this could be part of the TOC collaborator.
Initially
program,
we planted as TOC contributor plus sending
Contributor,
messages to all projects. So about 1 year ago, I sent messages to all project leaders asking to appoint someone as TOC contributor.
Okay.
I wouldn't say that we were super successful with regards to that, but we have Jenkins X representative participating.
Mhm.
We also had a declaration of intent from Spinnaker in December. Though every time we talk about Spinnaker, I'm afraid we need 2 representatives, but it's a separate story.
Yeah, I see Cameron today. The meeting, so that's great.
Yeah, so for Percy, we also have just a second, I'm opening the page. But when we were accepting Percy, we agreed in principle that just a second, what was it? Sorry. So Henra would be a contact person for Percy. He's on TOC contributors list right now.
Right.
And for Jenkins X, yeah, we had on Kit. Yeah, I can put it to the document.
It's this one, right?
Yeah, so we have Ankit who represents Jenkins X, Surhinra for Percy.
Right. And Emil, I see you volunteered for city events. Thank you for that. Cool. So we need someone from Shipwright. Okay, yeah, I can reach out to the Shipwright community and see if we can get someone, and maybe I can extend this TOC contributor table to mark the project affiliation explicitly, or maybe we could even include it in the TOC page.
Yep.
So yeah, like here, and having like members and then project representative, and have a list of the representative here. So at least we have one name per project. And yeah, I wouldn't say that the expectation is to attend all meetings, but I think it would be nice to have like a regular attendance from the budget representative, so that budgets are in the loop with initiatives and updates. And good. All right, thanks. Any other comments on this one? No, all right. And welcome, Fatih. I see you joined. So we discussed until now the project benefits document. And yeah, I think there was no opposition and positive comment, and Melissa kindly volunteered to help with that. Just keeping me up to date. And then discuss the project representatives for the TOC project. For the OKR, is that something that you wanted to introduce yourself, Fatih?
Yeah, thanks, Andrea. So as you may have seen, CDF board finds the strategy for CDF on a yearly basis, and we have been working with the strategy for 2023 for a while as part of our board strategy discussions, and we are coming closer to defining strategy for 2023 together with the OKRs. And while we were working with this topic on the strategy subcommittee, there were a few key results within the board documents. And some of those items are highly relevant to technical side committee as well, because they talk about projects, initiatives, or the initiatives our community works under the sixth. So it would make sense, at least to few of us, that those things are actually worked on by technical side committee because they are technical initiatives, and then they can be mapped back to a high-level board strategy. So that is the idea, to actually look at those OKRs and see how much they make sense, and then find some people to drive those topics within TOC, and then we keep this communication between board and technical side committee and broader technical community closer to have like progress around those topics. So that is the idea.
So basically the proposal is to put timeframes on all key initiatives happening in the TOC.
Yeah, and have some people to actually keep track of those things, and also flag things if like certain things require some help with, budget, for example. Technical side committee has budget for this year as well. Maybe some of those things could be supported that way, but we need those things to be highlighted by the actually people who are involved in those initiatives. Yeah.
Thanks, Fatih. Yeah, I think it would be nice to have OKRs for the TOC. So at least to have like, it means we would have like a set of objectives for the team, and then some key results to track them. And then those key results could be owned by different members of subgroups within the TOC that would drive them forward. Yeah. But
like
yeah,
an example
today.
Yeah, an example could be, for example, we talked about LFX security, I think it was end of last year. And even though LFX security has its, it can be improved, we don't have all our projects on board to LFX. That could perhaps be driven by the TOC, because we have the representatives from projects within TOC. And then we can say by June, all our projects are on board to LFX security. So we get some scans for projects. Or another OKR could be, we aim to have 2 new projects in CDF, for example, just making this up. And then if TOC members have interested projects, then we can work with those projects with the help of this project benefits guide and how to onboard the CDF, make sure we increase the diversity within the CDF with different types of projects like GoSCM, for example. So those type of technical initiatives, as well as this reference architecture, which we discussed, in summer, which is kind of a bit, going slow. So yeah.
Yeah, for me, so generally I'm fine with OKRs for items that are within our control. For example, documentation, various kind of onboarding materials, processes. But yeah, to be honest, I would rather push back on the example with LFX security. One of the reasons for that is that I'm not sure how other projects, but Jenkins, for example, specifically says that we make no time commitment on any item we take in our roadmap. And if the CDF comes to us and says that you need to adopt LFX security until June, firstly, we cannot, because we are still waiting for the Linux Foundation for some items. And secondly, the project just doesn't operate this way. So while we could put some intents and do a lot of hand-holding for projects, I don't think that it's really a job of TOC to deliver changes on the project side. We can facilitate, we can encourage, we can enable them, but I'm not sure we have any legal power to force anything.
Oh, this is not about forcing all. It's just, as you just said, like guiding and telling, because some projects may not be aware of available of LFX security, and as I noted, it has things to improve. At least we can say, projects, this thing is available. Are you interested in giving this a try? And onboarding projects to LFX security wasn't that difficult. At least the 2 projects I tried. And if projects say, no, we don't want this, then we know project has a reason not to want that. And the other one could be, we onboarded, what now? We don't get anything useful back from LFX security. And then that would be a good feedback back to LFX team saying, oh, project doesn't get what they need. When do you plan to introduce these new features like PR verification, for example? That was an example I think, Andrea, you provided when we tried for CD ones. And that, again, that key result, we may fail hitting that, but at the same time, we have some learnings from that to make sure we can improve what is there.
That's fine.
Yeah, I think goals can. I had to read a bit about OKRs to learn more in details what they are, but they are different type of objectives from what I read. So there are like some that are things that you expect to have, and others that are more aspirational and that are set up to kind of help us drive in a certain direction. And I think, as Fatih said, it's fine. We can have it as a result that we did not achieve that, but at least we invest effort on our side to try and drive something forward in a certain direction. And I think that's been the case also, like with the other initiative, like with the included name initiative that you've been driving forward for with a lot of passion, I have to say, for some time. And I mean, we did not have control on the timeline that it took, but at least it was on the roadmap. And I mean, you took the ownership and drove it forward. And ultimately, it happened even if we didn't get like formal confirmation. The CDF name is on the website. So I think it means that it happened.
Yeah, thanks to Brett for checking, because personally, this summer I just said that the inclusive naming initiative is rather dead after I sent a message to the governance email and they received no response in 1 month. But yeah, if it's not, I'm just happy for that.
Right. I think for today, my goal at least was to introduce the idea of using OKRs and see if anyone was opposed in general to the concept of managing our work via OKRs.
As long as we say that all data is aspirational, I'm fine with it. But yeah, regarding making stroke amendments, I'm basically the same, unless we are fully employed by somebody committing time. there is no time commitment. So +1 for cars, -1 for cars that became a hard roadmap and commitment. Does it make sense?
Yeah, I think so. I think if we want initiatives to move forward, we need to commit certain amount of time to make things happen, and so things won't happen by themselves. But I think when we go and define OKRs and say, okay, we want this to happen and that to happen, we should try and have like name of people that feels like they're interested in putting effort into that, so that the work is shared and we don't put in our roadmap things that no one is interested in driving and that we know that no one is working on.
Yeah, the biggest problem is actually not putting items on the roadmap, even though we struggled with it over the past year. But doing something with these things that got stuck, because people lose interests, priorities change, there are external dependencies, and for that actually, so doing this plumbing might be difficult. So I keep saying that a project manager is needed to make it efficient, but without it, yeah, I think that just looking at the roadmap regularly like we used to do before, it's all we can do. But yeah, if we agree that we can remove OKRs, then we can remove targets based on the realities, then it's fine. If TOC uses OKRs as strong commitment, for example, to the governing board, I will vote -1.
Well, what do you mean by strong commitment to the governing board?
Yeah, so for example, TOC, so we have roadmap, we used to do, and we should do roadmap updates to all interested parties, including the governing board. But what can happen is that we say we have OKRs, we have roadmaps with quotas. Then this roadmap is communicated, for example, by the CDF to premier members, to aspiring members, and it's perceived as a commitment of the foundation. Are we ready to such a level of commitment in the TOC at the moment? So, for example, we say that, okay, we want to have a security review for Spinnaker and its evaluation. We want to have CDF reference architecture by Q2, etc. And then it's communicated to CDF member organizations as a TOC commitment. I think it's more of a risk than benefit.
I'm not sure that's, I mean, the roadmap and or OKR will be public. So those are the goals that we will set as a team. I'm not sure what they would be used towards members.
Yeah, so yeah, the question whether we put a disclaimer, whether it's a no commitment roadmap, for example, like we do in Jenkins, or whether we say that it's a roadmap we commit to, like some vendors do. And there is a big difference between these two approaches.
But we at least need to agree that that's something that we want to pursue, and that's we want to put time in.
So they say
in that direction.
Okay. So yeah, if we approach like that, I'm fine. If you make a strong commitment, I think it's too much to commit to in the current state.
Yeah, well, I think I would commit to the fact that we want to work on certain things. I mean, of course, the results can be achieved or can be failed.
Yeah.
Right, to think
Well,
what is
OKRs are expected to fail if you do them properly. So. Once again, if we set an expectation that it's not hard commitment, then I'm fine.
Okay. So my idea was we could set up an initial document and then propose some initial OKRs. And I think then it's part of that document we should kind of clarify what is the expectation for OKRs and what is the approach that we are following as a team. So we could set the document up and then discuss it within the TOC. And once we agree on its format and on the list of OKRs, we could also then go back and present it to the governing board. Would that make sense?
Maybe the final implementation could be just a slice in the roadmap. For example, just time taken by quarters of some items, etc. I'm not sure we need a separate document in the final implementation, but definitely we can start with it.
Yeah, sure. We can map it on the roadmap project as well.
Well, definitely there will be a lot of overlap. It's just so whether it will need a separate representation, I think it's something we can figure out later. Because now with views on GitHub projects, you can easily create a OKR view just by using labels. Yeah, again, it's implementation detail. It's not the process thing. We can figure out it later.
Okay. Does anyone has any more comment on this OKR proposal, or is anyone interested in working on it? And similar to the other proposal, I think it would be good to have maybe 1 or 2 people kickstarting this work, and then we could get contribution to everyone.
I can participate to some extent, but yeah, mostly with reviews and formatting. I wouldn't champion this initiative, rather assist.
Okay. Shall I put myself and you, Oleg, and maybe we can sync offline, and I can start this, and we can do some review between the 2 of us, and then get it to a state where we are happy.
Yeah, works for me.
Pick it. All right. Next item. Okay, we are a bit running out of time, I guess, but the TOC vice chair or co-chair. I think this is an issue that we discussed before about having a co-chair. And when I had some comments, I thought maybe having a main chair and vice chair would be a preferred approach to avoid having like deadlock situations. And I think there is a proposal out there to a discussion started with the legal team to update the charter about this. Yes, I just wanted to bring this topic up again. From my perspective, I think it would make sense to have a vice chair role. And yeah, it should be someone that is attending the meeting on a regular basis. So in case the chair is not available, if I'm sick or whatever, for some reason I'm not available, we can ensure continuity in the team.
We have Melissa as a natural candidate for vice chair. So Melissa stepped up in the elections and participated there. So I think that it would be natural if you want to introduce this framework, just have Melissa taking this role. But yeah. So if the TOC is still +1 for having vice chair framework, then I think that for us the plan is more or less clear.
Okay. So I'm trying to I think on the TOC charter, it says that normally we should try and figure things out by consensus and resource to a vote only if needed, or a situation where it's needed. So how do we reach consensus? Do we say, okay, is anyone against or anyone in favor, or do you have anyone has any recommendation? Or Oleg, do you want to introduce how you were doing it before?
Regarding question or regarding
No, in general decision making for this kind of
well,
things.
in general, it's just reaching consensus. So we had no decisions that were not based on consensus. So yeah, we had a formal voting for some things like project membership and graduations. But regarding other decisions, it's just discussing in the chat at the meeting. If everyone is okay, if there is enough votes, feedback, we can proceed. It creates some delays for some things, for example, roadmap, other documentation, sometimes just pinging for pull request reviews. But I think that consensus mechanism has been working well so far.
Okay, but we don't have everyone from TOC all the time in all meetings.
Yeah.
So does it mean that if we want to have consensus, I guess we assume everyone is in the meeting unless they say, no, I disagree with that. We assume consensus.
In the meeting or reads the meeting notes. So if or reads the chat. So if there is something discussed at the meeting which is not in the meeting notes, I would rather say that it's not a consensus. But if we discuss a topic, if it's in writing, if it's communicated to people, if they don't respond after some time, okay, it's fine to move on. If others support the idea.
Yeah, I guess we should then reach out to the ones that are not here. So they might not just happen to read the notes. We might, if this is an important decision,
Yeah.
we should
Yeah, for
probably
important
reach out
decisions,
to them. Yeah.
we need to ping people. So, for example, for voting, it's normal to ping people. Hey, you haven't voted, etc. And maybe some of you received such messages from me before. Yeah, regarding general discussions, decisions, yeah, I think that just plain majority consensus is fine. So.
Okay.
Yeah,
So
so
unless-
one of the biggest problem for consensus mechanism is that it takes time. So getting any decision to conclusion is lengthy, pinging people takes time. Yeah, so sometimes relying, so our mailing list just doesn't work as communication channel right now. So it's either Slack or this meeting. And yeah, even for Slack, for pull requests, sometimes it takes several pings to get a response.
Sure. Yeah. But
Yes.
if, as I understand, at least it would be my responsibility as chair then to make this working, so take ownership of reaching out of
I
people that is not
disagree.
in the meeting.
I think it's a
No?
responsibility of a project manager, but since we don't have project manager, now it's your responsibility. It's one of the key misunderstandings why I decided to step down. But yes, so now it's somebody that champions that effort. It doesn't have to be a TOC chair, in my opinion, but it has to be somebody from TOC, either a member of contributor, who takes leadership for building this consensus and basically getting the decision to a conclusion.
Okay.
I don't think it has to be you always, but yeah, sometimes it will require your participation.
Well, at least in this instance, I'm happy to take ownership for that. If that helps.
Maybe.
So I'll make sure that everyone from the TOC who is not today, I will reach out to get their confirmation. So I just added to the note that there is consensus among the presents at the meeting about the vice chair idea. Yeah. So I guess we should get. Thanks, Oleg. I guess we should get. Confirm. I mean, we have majority, but I will reach out to people not present in the meeting to get consensus, and then we can discuss. I would like to volunteer for this role. Okay. All right. Moving forward, I will add another proposal about project transparency guidelines. I think personally, I think as a TOC, it's part of our responsibility to provide guidelines for the projects in terms of what is expected in terms of governance, transparency of the governance. So projects should have documented how their governance works and who's part of the governance team and so forth. Transparency in meetings and communication channels. So it should be possible to attend meetings. There should be no, private meetings in projects. Well, sorry, There, of course, can be private meeting, but the general community where decisions are taken for the community should be public and should be possible to access those meetings and communication channels. And to help streamline infrastructure cost, I think it would be nice also to recommend projects to have an infrastructure spend report, which in some format we might make public eventually. I guess I was chatting with Fatih about this. I mean, there are certain numbers that maybe we cannot make public, but maybe at least in percentage, say a certain percentage of the spend is used for compute power, other for storage and so forth, so that we get more visibility across the project, what kind of infrastructure they use, and hopefully foster communication about solutions and ideas how to streamline this infrastructure, reduce the spend, or allocate the spend in areas that are most useful for the projects. So my proposal would be to try and write down this kind of guidelines for projects, and as if we have representative in the TOC meeting, we can also discuss then with them how we can help implement this guidelines if there is any question, clarification, or suggestions, of course.
My understanding that most of these guidelines are already included into project onboarding prerequisites. So for incubating projects, at least the governance and communication channels are described as a requirement. For infrastructure spend reports, I think maybe we could just edit.
Mm-hmm.
So again, maybe it's something that doesn't require separate guidelines, but just as the extension of existing expectations.
Yeah, just to add something to that, because you might have noticed time to time some people join CDFs and ask questions about certain project. How can I do this with project X? So this type of, as you say, Oleg, like extending existing guidelines and perhaps listing those things in a document next to actual guidelines, saying okay, for all our projects, like governance documents or communication channels, look at this doc, and that doc could link back to the project's governance documents, for example, so we don't duplicate the information, but at least give people a chance to see all those things in one document and easily find the information they are looking for.
Yeah, I think it's just a bit opposite. So basically it's a kind of project map on the CDF level. So it's not something projects actually implement to some extent. So
yeah, that's what I'm trying to say. Yeah,
somewhere on the CDF side, including contributing guidelines and public channels, because contributing guidelines would be also an important thing for this navigation map.
Yeah, that's not opposite. That's exactly the same thing I was trying to say.
Yep. So no, I was just trying to understand. So it's not a guideline per se, it's rather a separate page that can be easily used by ambassadors, by CDF members for whatever needs. It will be definitely nice.
Okay, I will create an issue in the roadmap for this. Yeah. Okay. Thanks for the comments on this. The last two things, the GSOC application reminder, and then if we have a little bit of time, we can go through a review of the existing roadmap. So I believe, Brad, you added this about the GSOC. Anything you want to say additionally?
Yeah, I think GSOC is good for the foundation because each project that participates gets 500 US. So it's good for projects like Jenkins X that don't have a big company backing them. And good for diversity as well because the students also get paid. So if any projects need advice, I'm happy to help them. I think we have around 4 projects that participate. Is that right, Oleg?
So it depends on the year. So 2 years ago
Yeah.
it was 4 projects from the CDF. Last year it was Jenkins and Artilius. Artilius participated, right?
Yes, it is.
Yeah, and Jenkins X was basically participating. It was also participating separately. I think that's all last year.
Yeah, I know Jenkins is still looking for people to contribute to it.
So what is the difference, if I am trying to understand, for a project to join GSOC
Yeah, so
by themselves or for the CDF?
yeah, so the projects will have to apply. So this is for the org application. So this is all projects that want to participate will have to apply next week. And then the month later, all the contributors that want to do a proposal for the project will have to start applying as well, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it's one of the options. And another option which we tried for 2 years is having Continuous Delivery Foundation applying as mentoring organization. So the idea that the CDF applies, then it was accepted all the times. And then basically the Continuous Delivery Foundation can basically facilitate project ideas across all projects. And then based on the applications, they can basically distribute project slots between projects. It creates overhead on the CDF side, including the application, org administration, financial part, but at the same time, it provides relief to the projects. The biggest cons of this approach is visibility of the project themselves, because the GSOC website is not designed for umbrella organizations, unfortunately. So if they see Jenkins, if they see Tekton, but yeah, it's a project they heard about, they can search by keywords, but it's unlikely that somebody would go that students know what Continuous Delivery Foundation is about. The foundation is not that famous at the moment. So if you participate under that umbrella, basically you would rely on your own marketing capabilities and your own outreach to invite students. It's possible, but it would require some efforts to be put in there.
Oleg, is it possible to have a hybrid approach where you could, let's say that Jenkins wanted to go out on their own and then you could do CDF as well? Is that possible?
Yes, it's possible. It's what we did the first year.
Okay.
But yeah, Jenkins had 35 or so applications that year, and the CDF had 4 applications, if I recall correctly. So this is basically, again, the question, all approaches are possible, but whatever the participating organization is, they are expected to proactively participate and to do outreach. Even now, you can see that there are some students on CDF Slack reaching out, asking what's going to happen. The same for Jenkins. I guess all of previous mentors got a bunch of direct emails and LinkedIn messages asking for guidelines. But yeah, if you want to have quality proposals, it requires outreach.
Yeah, the Jenkins project is definitely going to go solo again this year. We're actively preparing. Happy to offer advice to others, but we're intentionally going solo, specifically for some of the topics that Oleg noted, right? Visibility, it's easier to see a project when it goes solo into the Google Summer of Code system and hosts its own org admin, but that then means that project is assuming the responsibility to do that org admin.
Yeah. Plus, there is less politics involved to project slots, because if you have 4 project slots and a bunch of proposals from different projects, there is politics involved, because you want to have the most diverse set of projects, which is a true approach from the foundation standpoint, but an individual project might disagree. Yeah. The way Jenkins this year, Mark.
Yeah, okay, to summarize, and thanks, Mark, for the offer to share kind of best practices on this. It sounds to me like the hybrid approach is possibly the best. So like larger project have the opportunity to apply by themselves, have their name out, get better branding in the GSOC website and so forth. And maybe smaller project could rely on CDF slots.
Yeah, so
or
it would require, it's totally possible. It would require 2 organization admins who would take care of the application, of all other logistics. It's actually quite, well, it's quite a lot of work if you want the project to be efficient. If someone steps up, it would be great.
So, sorry, go ahead. Right.
I was just going to say, if you need someone for CDF, I can put my hand up to admin that, because Ollie taught me last year to do that as well.
I can do advisory, but I wouldn't commit to org administration and the CDF this year.
So, Brad, you said you would be happy to help or to drive this work from CDF point of view.
Yeah,
Sorry,
yeah,
I
I'm happy
missed that.
to help and be the admin as well if required.
Okay. Right. So maybe let's sync offline on that. We only have 1 minute left, so I don't think we'll get to roadmap review this time. Sorry, there were a lot of things in the agenda for the first meeting. Maybe in the last few seconds that are left, I just wanted to say, I mean, this is, I'm new to this role, so please feel free to let me know either in this meeting or personally if there is something that you feel I'm doing wrong or I should do and not doing, or positive feedback is also welcome, of course.
You're doing great.
Thank you.
Nailing it.
And yeah, looking forward to see everyone else next time. And thanks everyone for your contribution and being here today.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Yeah. Thanks
Thanks,
all.
Bye.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.